So morena everyone. I would just like to open the meeting of the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee of the 1st of December 2020. So I'm Sally Sheedy and I'm filling in for Debbie today. And I also need to go through just opening the meeting and declaring that it is open. And I understand that we are live streaming now as well. So first of all, I would like to move to apologies and understand if there are any other apologies apart from those that have been received from Councillors Gower, O'Regan and Thomas. If there are no other, and Barnes as well. And I would also like to ask for nominations and to elect a chair for the meeting. Fantastic. So Liz, please come on up.
Good morning, everybody. It's nice to be back here for a day. Okay, we've done apologies, so we'll move into disclosure of members' interest. Do we have any this morning?
Madam Chair, did we have a mover and a seconder for the apologies though? We listed the apologies. Yeah. Yep, but we did, yeah, and I'll second, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Colleen. Okay, so yes, we've got disclosure of members' interest. There are none, so I'll move on to late items. Any late items this morning? No, then confirmation of order of the meeting. So we've got a recommendation. Have someone move and second, please. Thanks, Elwyn. Thanks, Claire. All in favour? Carried. Okay, a minutes dated the 2nd of September, so we'll move through to those. Do we have any amendments, changes, suggestions?
There's just one minor correction needed on page 14 of the agenda, item 12, on the last paragraph, on the second to last line, it starts off process. It is anticipated. It's got an extra N there.
Oh, okay, thanks, Claire. Okay, if there are no other amendments, can I have I've got a recommendation. Can I have a move and a seconder? Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Philip. All in favour? Carried. Right, we shall move on to our next item, which of course we'd like to welcome Mangatotiri. Phil, and you have your team here. Welcome to the table. Nice to have you all back. I've heard good things about this presentation, so no pressure.
So if I can just through the team, this is just an opportunity for Phil and his team to provide you an update on where MEIT and Century Mountain has currently got to in terms of their work program and looking forward. So welcome Phil and your team, and look forward to hearing the great things that you've been doing.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Sally. Do we actually have a copy of the presentation? Oh, God, thank you. Thank you. And just while we're waiting for the presentation to be put on screen, today we are going to provide just a very brief snapshot of our annual report and also show the impact the Monga is having and what we're working towards to deliver our strategic and restoration plan goals over the next 12 months. I've also joined by team members, Jess Mead, who's our marketing manager, also Tally Jellerman, who's our education centre team leader, Dr. Janelle Ward, our species coordinator, and Dan Howie, a ranger. Our health and wellness coordinator, Rosie Callahan, can't make it today. She's on a course, but I will relay some of the information that she was going to share with you. So it won't be as good as what she would have done, but I'll do my best. So thank you. All good. Yep. So what I will do, I'll just invite team members up to present from this chair as well, just to the left of me here, just as we work through the presentation. And I am conscious of time. We did spend an hour discussing this at the Reserve Committee meeting, so we'll be quick. It's amazing to think that MEIT is 20 years old next year, and it's thanks to all of you that Sanctuary Mountain is Aotearoa's most ambitious and inspirational restoration project. In 2016, MEIT forged a new long-term vision, which is to share the Maori and mana of the Maunga. Building on the foundation of our 2004 restoration plan, our new restoration plan was completed in 2019, and it provides a new strategic framework for the restoration of the Maunga for the next 10 years. Quite simply, the long-term goals of the new plan are to increase Indigenous dominance and species occupancy on Maungatautari, and to increase the number of people who cherish Sanctuary Mountain. Today, we'd like to share some highlights from the last financial year and how we are progressing towards delivering these goals. Before I hand over to the team, I'd just like to provide some context to our presentations. Up on the screen, no, sorry, I'll say click. Click, not yet. In 2019, Sanctuary Mountain began aligning our reporting to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. In early 2020, we joined the Waikato Wellbeing Project and embedded the UN Sustainable Development Goals into our systems for collective impact. We believe that by restoring the Maunga with our partners, we will provide an ecological foundation which will support social well-being. This is our theory of change. So what does this look like in our organization? Not quite a well-oiled machine yet. Our vision to share the Maori and mana of the Maunga moves our organization forward and aligns our why and hows. Our why is simply that we are inspired katiaki, and we are guided by our hows, our guiding principles. Shortly, you'll see our hows totally embedded in our team's presentation. You will see how we engage our communities, safeguard our tonga, and grow valued relationships. Simply, our team's presentations will focus on our whats. Our whats are the tangibles, the work we do every day to share the Maori and mana of the Maunga. In terms of the Sustainable Development Goals, our day-to-day work comprises of 7 interrelated elements. The first 3, which is basically the work that we do on and around the mountain, comprise of climate action, life on land, and life below water. This creates a healthy and thriving Maunga, which in turn enables Sanctuary Mountain to provide good jobs and economic growth by bringing people to the region, and quality education, health and well-being programs. This leads to a healthy and thriving community, which in turn reduces inequalities. I'd now like to hand you to the team who will share their highlights and how we have translated our whats into key activities, outputs and outcomes to deliver our theory of change. Thank you. Just the next slide. That's all right. So I'll just invite Tali, who will be speaking on behalf of Rosie. As I said, he can't be here today. This is Tali Jellyman, our education team leader.
Okay, so we've had an impressive 87% increase in the guided tours over the last financial year, which is fantastic. Some of that, as you can see, is due to the inbound tour operators, so the overseas adventure travel groups coming through, which of course does include or is a large international proportion there. However, also contributing to that increase is some shorter introductory tour experiences that we developed that are based on seasonal experiences for people. So they're slightly shorter, provides people with an informative introduction when they come out to the maunga. If they have a shorter period of time, it's something that they can opt into to learn more about what we do, or an introductory opportunity before they continue on and experience the Southern Enclosure themselves. And we also introduced a unique Kiwi experience tour that's offered during the Kiwi hatch and release season. And we're continuing to offer that this year with a few different options around that for people, including a special Kiwi encounter, in addition to doing a guided tour within the Southern Enclosure. So there we go.
And the other area that Rosie's been working on is really exciting. It's related to good health and well-being, which is a Sustainable Development Goal 3. There's a large body of research showing on how, by connecting with nature, you reduce stress, reduce your blood pressure. It's really good for mental health, improves sleep, boosts immune systems. So Maunga Tautari obviously offers the perfect environment to support and enhance wellness. We're currently running 2 pilot programs. The first one, Nature Connections, is actually with Waipa District Council, and I believe we've got approximately 11 employees working with Rosie, and it's starting this month around a whole wellness program, and that's a pilot. And also we've built relationship with Rest Haven care facilities. And just last week, we had the first group arrive. And again, that was, and all the programs are really about just immersion into nature, onto the maunga. But we're also measuring, so we're measuring blood pressure, we're measuring mood, and we're gathering lots of data before and after the immersion onto the maunga. As pilots, information will be gathered to aid in assessing the effectiveness of the programs with a view to further developing the program so it can be made available to the wider community. Thank you. Okay, next slide, please. Education.
Okay, just to comment back on the opportunities that the Kiwi hatch season is offering us. We've also had a great opportunity this year from sponsorship provided by Mother Earth for the education program, where we offered a competition out to schools to be able to come in and experience a Kiwi release. So we've had 2 schools specially come in the second half of this year to be a part of the special Kiwi release, thanks to Mother Earth and Enviro Schools helping us there as well. So the education program this year has hosted 2,898 people. We had a really busy end of 2019 and a fully subscribed first term of 2020, and forward bookings were looking really positive as well. Of course, the challenges of 2020 came along in the form of a lockdown, and so we have seen fewer students overall this year due to that. However, we were still able to host a whole range of students, from primary school students to tertiary international students, and some conference groups as well. So we can support teachers in the classroom with learning about our native wildlife, connecting to their local maunga, through to NCEA level achievement standard support as well. The great news is that term 4 this year, we've had a real surge in demand, and we're flat out right at the moment, and today included. And it's been great to see students from the region come to visit, including a couple recently where the teachers have informed me that this may well be their first experience for some of these children on a school trip, on a bus, first experience walking in a forest. And at the end of last week, with one of those special schools that won the Kiwi experience as well, one child spontaneously came up at the end and said, "That's the best day I've had in my life." So that's pretty awesome to see. So what we're focusing on from here is building our relationships with teachers. So working on the database where we can have direct contact with teachers in the classroom so that we can work with them as we develop our programs. And looking into the use of some digital resource materials as well, another thing that has really moved forward in 2020 for everybody in the education space also. And we look forward to the Education Centre build next year. Just a comment from the Sustainable Development Goals point of view, quality education. We're really fortunate in New Zealand with the curriculum that of course our schools are working to. There is a strong focus right throughout on sustainability, lifelong learning, and within that environmental education framework, education in, about and for the environment, we have such a unique space where we can support learning for children in a really unique New Zealand conservation space.
Thank you, Sally. Thanks, Sally. And Jess Mead, our marketing person.
Right, just quickly go through the 2019-2020 year with visitor numbers looking like they were going to exceed the previous year, and then obviously COVID hit, so that put a dampener on where we were going only in a slight way. Our guide, as we said before, our guided tours had increased, and the domestic market still made up 61% of our visitors. Customer satisfaction, you'll see here that we have a very high number, 97.7%, who are either very satisfied or extremely satisfied with their experiences on the maunga, and 88.5% of our visitors viewed the product's value for money as above average or excellent. Now the Net Promoter Score as well, this is a globally benchmarked score where it takes into account just the question, would you recommend this experience or product to your friends and family? And we sit at 86% when this was taken, so this may have changed slightly, but the global benchmark on this is a 31, so we're far exceeding the global benchmark on that. So some market or some promotional kind of highlights from this previous year. A full back page. Now this was free of charge. Well, we had a lady come to do a Kiwi experience, so back page in New Zealand Life and Leisure. Now and just context-wise, a full advertisement in New Zealand Life and Leisure magazine is about $5,000 to $6,000. So that was pretty good advertising for us. The Air New Zealand safety video, a bit of a coup for us. It's been seen 1.8 million times, and I was actually just going through how people found out about us the other day, and there were a couple in there that saw us through this Air New Zealand safety video, so that was pretty cool to see that it's actually had some sort of effect. And I had a lady come over to me at the motorhome show that was on recently in Hamilton, who said, gosh, I've seen that video about 18 times because I've been traveling the country. So it's certainly been really great for us, and hopefully that continues with Air New Zealand's marketing budget perhaps being decreased a little bit. The Mother Earth partnership is another really significant marketing opportunity for us in the last year, with for over a period of 6 weeks, their Oti slices had a kakapo on the front and our logo on the back, and 10 cents from every pack of that sold. This included honey as well, and that's still on shelf, I think. But 10 cents from every box sold came to Sanctuary Mountain Maungatautari, and they then matched that up to a certain amount. So I saw a surge in our Facebook following, our Instagram following, and our website analytics just over that period that they were really heavily promoting us as well. So that was really, really quite something. And then there's a list of sort of some other things there, but those were some of the key promotional activities. For going ahead, with the sort of lack of international tourism at the moment, really focusing on the domestic market and how we can drive tourism through the summer period of where the local market tends to want rest and relaxation and maybe not take up on those tourism activities. So hoping to get into sort of the drive-by market and those that are on their way to their holiday destination. We've also got Arataki cultural tours coming It's an app where they are telling cultural stories about the Maunga, and that will be implemented onto the Maunga very, very soon. It's rolling out sort of as we speak. And then we have a few new products. Also, Christmas on the Maunga is this weekend, 5th of December, and we've made that an extended time to work in with the Te Awamutu Christmas parade. So hopefully people can, the community can enjoy both. So that's me.
Thank you, Jess. And I'd just now like to ask Dan Howie, our ranger, to come and talk to you about operations and pest management. Thank you.
Yeah, kia ora everyone. As Phil said, my name's Dan. I'm a ranger with the Sanctuary Mountain Maunga Tau 3 operations team. So in the operations team, we're responsible for conducting pest detection and pest eradication work and for maintaining the predator-proof fence on the Maunga. This work is essential for Sanctuary Mountain Maunga Tau 3 to achieve our sustainable development goals of protecting native flora and fauna on the Maunga and allowing the ecosystem there to regenerate and thrive. So the 2019-2020 financial year was a busy one for our team. There were 13 incursions of pests to our sanctuaries, 5 incursions of mice, 4 of rats, and 4 incursions of weasels. Mouse incursions occurred in all of our mouse-free enclosures, so Tautari wetland, the Kiwi 2 block, and the northern and southern enclosures. Responses were established, and those enclosures are once again mouse-free. Rats were detected in the Kiwi 2 block and in the waterfall area. And additionally, 2 Norway rats were trapped in the Gorsnet area and a further ship rat on the southeast fence line. Incursion responses for these rats were established, and after no further trapping or tracking, these responses are now complete. The fact that rat tracking occurred in the waterfall area, that little red dot toward the center of the map there, was a concern for our team. Previously, we have not had a rat track more than 200 meters from the fence. In response, a rodent dog handler was brought to the Maunga to carry out surveys in this area, and the handler reported no further strong indication for the presence of rats. In July and August of 2019 and in May of 2020, 4 weasels were trapped in respective areas across the Maunga. Incursion responses for these weasels were put in place, including the additional deployment of dog traps, camera traps, and tracking cards. No further tracking occurred and no additional weasels were trapped. Following the 2019 captures, 3 rodent dog handlers were brought to the Maunga to survey the whole area. 1 handler reported a moderate indication for a mustelid in the what we call the quad track area, which is basically toward the center of the Maunga there, but no further evidence of weasels was found. Because of the concern for the potential existence of a population of weasels on the Maunga, Kate Richardson from Waikato Regional Council coordinated the collection of samples from the weasels that we had trapped in these years and also from previous samples we had kept in storage in order to conduct a genetic analysis to determine whether there was a familial relationship between these samples. The results of this analysis were inconclusive, unfortunately. There was a potential for some sibling relationships, but no strong parent-offspring relationship was found, which would tell us for certain that there was a family or a breeding on the Maunga. The year ahead is shaping up to be a good one for our team. We've actually just had more than 20 dog handlers from the Conservation Dogs program come to the Maunga last week. And they did an extensive sweep of the whole Maunga for a variety of pests, Argentine ants, plague skinks, mice, rats, mustelids of all kinds, cats, rabbits. And they do this as an annual thing, and it's a way for them to collaborate and train with one another. But it was a great opportunity for our team, and the mountain came back pest-free, which was really, really exciting for us. Yeah, we have received the report. Yeah, we have received the report. Okay. And also beginning in November, we've had 4 new cadets come on to our team. This is in partnership with Toyoho Mai and the Te Puni Kukuri Cadetship Program, and these guys are a really great help to our team, helping us carry on the essential work we're carrying out with. So fence breaches, sorry, Jess, I'll get to jump on to the next slide. So in total, our staff attended 90 call-outs to potential fence breaches over the last financial year. This is an increase from the year before of 77 call-outs. Most of these call-outs are caused by vegetation impacting the fence or the surveillance wire atop the fence. Or preemptive to this, our team have been carrying out vegetation trimming along the fence line throughout the year. A hedge trimmer was brought to the Maunga in May of this year to help us and clear vegetation near the fence line, and arborists have been continually contracted to identify trees that look as if they will fall and to bring those trees down. Only 4 sections of the excluded fence were destroyed in this financial year, which is a reduction from 9 in the previous year, and we attribute this ongoing vegetation trimming work to that reduction. Repair work to our access roads is ongoing, begun last summer and continues today as we speak. This includes the over the mountain track as well as the track around the perimeter of the enclosure. And further projects for this year to come include replacement of our EDAC dialers. So these are the dialers which alert our team when we have a fence breach, so that they're compatible with the upgrade to the cellular network in the region. Replacement of culverts and water gates around the Maunga is ongoing, and the continuing rollout of ArcGIS online programs so that our team can increase their ability to conduct real-time reporting out there in the field. In the bottom corner here, not that you can see it very well, is an example of what we'd call a dashboard that we produce from this data. So this is real-time data of our team collecting their responses to fence breaches. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you, Dan. I'll just ask Dr. Janelle Ward now to come and provide an overview of our species work. Thank you. Thanks, Janelle.
Kia ora, everybody. I'm Janelle, and I'll just take you through some of our species results this financial year, and also talk about some of the exciting stuff to come soon. So at the bottom of the screen in front of you there, you can see our kōkako census that we were able to proceed with this year and on receiving the DOC community funding. And for the first time, we have over 100, so 101 territorial kōkako on the mountain. This is more than doubled since the last survey 2 years ago, and represents some of the fastest growth they've seen for kōkako on the mainland. So we're very excited to get that result. If you just click on to the next one. We've also conducted hihi surveys almost every year over the past 8 years. And as you can see on the right-hand side there, the last blue line that you can see was the last hihi census. And that represented a great result with over 120 estimate of the population. This year there has been another hihi survey, but we don't have the results just yet. That was a bumper breeding season that year, and so we're not expecting as high a growth, but it was pretty exciting to get that result that last year, because they haven't really shown a great boost. And this was the first time that we saw a large growth, so it was great. So we also have 2 breeding pair of takahe in the Maunga, and we've had huge success with those guys in the last few years, and including 4 juveniles in the last season from 2 pair, which is the most you can get out of a takahe. And so we were actually given 2 new males this year that actually have better genetic quality, so that we can sort of hopefully continue that success with those breeding pair. We, along with Tarongia Restoration Society, I see Claire here today, we were able to conduct some successful surveys over the last year at Tarongia and Puriora, and we've now received our permit to go ahead with a rifleman translocation next year. We've also this year received a 10-year global species management permit. So this has been about 2 years in the making of working really hard with DOC to try and give us a permit that helps us to do the management for all of the species that we have active work with at the Maunga, whereas previously you had to get a permit for each species. So this is great. We're only the 2nd organisation in New Zealand to get such a permit like this, and really helps us to move forwards. We've also made some good progress with our Tautari wetland. We've got a balance of trying to encourage the restoration of this area, but also maintain it as grassland for our wonderful breeding takahe. So this is an ongoing work, and we've had a number of plantings done this year and some good weed work that we hope to continue in future. We've also had a number of research projects happening, and this seems to be increasing all the time, with people really interested to conduct research at Maungatautari, and we're trying to support them in that work. So we help encourage them to get the right permits in place, and then we support them to go out on site and conduct the research they need to do. So this year we also had DOC Tier 1 monitoring, which was great to get that going again, and that feeds into a national database. And we've also had a summer research intern last summer who was doing hihi monitoring to see whether visual monitoring of the feeding stations gives you more accurate information than camera traps, and actually people work better in this occasion. So that was really interesting. We've also got some other research currently happening, including some water quality testing, which is actually happening today after this meeting. And we've started some fungal survey research on recommendations from our restoration plan that really fungi hadn't received a lot of energy, shall we say, in the project so far. And so we've set up an iNaturalist project, which has already more than doubled the amount of species of fungi that we've found at the mountain. And we've got some new projects on the way too. So some exciting stuff. As I said, we've got the rifleman translocation that would happen in April or May of next year. We potentially will have kakapo arriving at the mountain next year. So I literally about a week and a half ago came back from Whenua, where we were looking at some fence modification trials to make sure that we can keep the kakapo inside the fence line. Yeah, so the results of that will be in due course, and we'll definitely keep you guys informed. We've just finished setting up a new permanent survey plot in the southern enclosure for geckos and skinks, which consists of 80 stations that we will monitor twice a year. And this is also due to our restoration plan goals. We've got the triennial bird count happening this week, which is through Manaaki Whenua Landcare Research, and Tuatara survey coming up in December. So they're keeping me busy, let's just say. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other research in the wings that some of that has already started, and some of that is in good progress, and we hope to get some results over the next year. So all of this is helping to contribute to our life on land goal, but next year I'm also hoping to focus a little bit more on life underwater, and perhaps do some more fish surveys to follow up on the galaxid release that happened in the past. So thank you. Oh, yes. So Craig normally does this. I forgot I was doing the Kiwi. So yes, if we just click again, you should get the survey results. So yes, this year we did a Kiwi survey as well. So the green represents, so each of those that you're looking at there on the board is a listening station for Kiwi around the mountain, on the peaks of the mountain, and the brown was the last survey last year, and green this year. So you can see a huge jump even in 1 year. And we are now getting to the point where we're working with Kiwis for Kiwi and all these Kiwis releases, and we are going to be implementing a new monitoring plan. The current plan for Kiwi on the mountain is that when we reach half carrying capacity through breeding plus release, that we will want to start removing some of those from the mountain. So how do we know if we've reached half carrying capacity? So they do think that we can carry up to about 680 pair of Kiwi plus juveniles. So that's thousands of Kiwi that we can potentially carry. But we're going to use a combination of call count monitoring, surveys out with dogs potentially, fence line with camera trap monitoring, and so on, to make sure that the Kiwi are in good health, and that when we're getting, those numbers are getting up, then we start to look at how we're going to catch them and export them. Is there another slide for Craig? Yeah. Yep. Okay. That will be enough. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Janelle. As you can see, there's lots of great work happening there with the team. So thank you, team. Wonderful job. So obviously, our sustainability hinges on the success of our partnerships. And again, this year, as with previous years, we've enjoyed excellent technical advice, financial support, bless you, and generosity from our key partners and our community. So thank you to all of you. Obviously, you know, this is what you've just seen is because of this partnership. So thanks. Clearly, we are very dependent upon our partner support. This time last year, we were waiting on news of a lotteries application for our new education centre. And we are just in the process of engaging contractors and are looking to start the building work in late March, early April of 2021. Thank you. So, and I think most of you will have seen this before, but that gives you, that's a photo of what it will look like from the wetland. And then, Jessica, just go to the next one, please. And there's just a concept layout. At the moment, we're looking, there's two parts. The back part is 2 classrooms that can be removed to make to one large space. That is actually what we're looking to build right now. And then the front part, which is a smaller space, will also be a 3rd classroom, but will also have a research focus as well. And that certainly is a growing opportunity for us. And obviously, Janelle just scraped the surface of some of the research that's happening, but it's massive opportunity. So, so we've got the funding for the back. We're getting the prices for the whole thing, and we're going to keep pushing for the additional funding as well. So back in 2004, the original restoration plan was an ecological plan. Today, as this slide shows, the restoration plan is also a cultural restoration plan and has a strong focus on enhancing people's relationships with the Maunga. So, in summary, our partnership will deliver our theory of change and create a region where Maunga Tautari is a sacred source of spiritual pride and prestige for mana whenua. We'll have endangered native fauna, waterways and flora healthy and thriving. Forest recreational activities will enhance the well-being of our communities. Jobs are being created with conservation, education and tourism contributing to the Waikato economy. And most importantly, our tamariki understand their role as future kaitiaki. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Phil. Yes, I think there are some questions,
Yeah,
Graham.
thank you, Madam Chair. Phil, good report, same as the one you gave MEIT, so yeah, that's all good. Loved your staff, I think, them coming in, I think the report you've given came right from their soul and it was so good. Can I ask, it's exciting to hear about the export of Kiwi once you get to that critical mass. Is that a chance for a revenue stream for the Maunga? Because I've always been very, very surprised at the cost of translocation and thought, hey, is this a chance we can recover some of that from our own operation?
I think the opportunity for revenue is very real, and that's very much through the visitor experience, which we're starting to realise. As you know, the team described the products that we're offering. So Kiwi, for example, a Kiwi release would generate somewhere between sort of $1,000 to $2,000 per release, depending on, you know, but also what's really important is there are some very strict protocols around the whole management of Kiwi, obviously and understandably. So we do have to make sure that we are operating within those best practice guidelines, but we're already starting to realise the revenue. And you saw the stats around the increase in tour numbers. A lot of that's been driven by things like the Kiwi release programme.
There are some sanctuaries at the moment that are looking to add Kiwi to diversify their breeding program around New Zealand, or is it pretty well, you know, what do you call it, self-contained?
Kiwis for Kiwi really manages what will happen with that Western taxa in future. So we are limited by geography a little bit about where those Kiwi can go, but there are a number of sites around the North Island that are undertaking quite active predator control, and some of those are hoping for Kiwi in the future. But we also have Tongariro National Park, which would be a big potential release site in future. So.
And just one other thing, we also do receive funding from Kiwis for Kiwi to cover operating costs as well. So it's a smorgasbord of revenue opportunities that we're tapping into. Yeah.
Could I make a wee comment that with this new global permit, DOC has actually come back to us and asked us to work with them on the advocacy plan for Kiwi, because we're getting into a space where there's a lot of unknowns, I guess, about what you can and can't do with Kiwi for revenue and such. So we will work closely with them. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, any other questions? Jim?
Madam Chair, congratulations team. I'm really pleased to see the success on Amanga, and hard to believe it's 20 years, but yeah, it's huge. In terms of council funding though, we're looking at our 10-year plan now, as other councils are around the country. Funding sources, are they looking any more promising, or still a heavy reliance on government, if you like, central, local and regional? Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think at the moment it's definitely a reliance upon a spread of the risk, definitely. I mean, clearly this year is a great example of how that was really good from a risk perspective. You know, if we'd had a huge dependency on tourism, it could have been a very different story today. But yeah, I think the challenge is just to, you know, obviously our councils are really contributing. We just need to make sure that all stakeholders are contributing for the value that's now being provided. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you, Phil. Okay, if there's no other questions, just like to thank the team very, very much for coming in today, but also can just on behalf of council just express a thank you to your trustees for the fine work that they have done throughout the year as well. So thanks. Now I do have a recommendation, A and B. Mover Graham, Claire seconder, all in favour? Aye, carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great Christmas and New Year's as well. Thank you for your time. Cheers. Thank you. Cheers.
Okay, everybody, we'll move on to our next item, which is the Community Services Quarterly Report. Sally's going to present this item.
Thank you through the chair. I just want to highlight some of the following items from my quarterly report, which is up to the 30th of September. So very excitingly, we've had the installation of 2 new toilet facilities, one at Centennial Park and one at Parongia. And we also held our first Designer Dunny competition. And so you can see within my report the great rap that has gone on with a local artist at the Centennial Park facility. We also, quite exciting, over the last few months and within this quarter has been working with National Library New Zealand around funding to essentially that was received from central government to support our communities through COVID. And so we are working with the National Library and do have 2 fixed term roles that we are hoping to appoint within the next week, and they are supported until the 30th of June 2022. So that is really to help with digital learning, digital access within the community. So support those job seekers as an option there in our community to come in and get some help on how they can do that. And also literacy is a key aspect that we're looking at there as well. So that's exciting for us because essentially we are getting those roles funded by the National Library, and that fund, there is around, I think, 58 million that government supported with that. The COVID Auckland lockdown, I will call it that was through August to September, did significantly affect our programs. So once again, we went into those limitations with the numbers that were allowed in our facilities. So that affected both the libraries and the museums, so around schools and how we could get schools into those programs, and also the pool facility. We did experience when there was a little bit of uncertainty if we were going to go to level 3 or not, and there was a significant spike in book issues. So I think previously it had gone from toilet paper to flour to library books. So the team, that when it was first announced, I think they had tripled the number of issues from the week before to that Friday. So that was great for the team, that our community loves our library books, but it was quite busy as well. Also added within the report is the number of users for Te Arawai journeys. So we've had 1,759 new users of that, the Te Arawai journeys website. We've also seen a lower numbers than this time in terms of burial numbers. So from that perspective, whether or not it is that everybody is healthier with doing that the isolation, keeping the hygiene measures up, and also most probably not having the same flu that we've had through winter. So we are just tracking those at the moment just to see how they are with our numbers. And unfortunately highlighted in the report was that we did have the Te Awamutu Cemetery building was broken into, and we did lose quite a bit of equipment through that. It wasn't just a normal break-in, they took a blowtorch with them. So it was actually fairly determined to do that. So we have lodged that with the police and are still working with the police around activity that happens at the cemetery after hours. Currently, I think you'll all know how quickly your lawns are growing. So the parks team are definitely trying to keep up with the spring flush that we're having. And we do also have spring weed and pest plant controllers underway, as well as releasing this year and last year's plantings across our conservation reserves. So further on our agenda today is we do have an update and a presentation on Enviro Schools. So that will be great to hear on the work that they're doing. So those are the key highlights I thought I'd pull out of the report. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Sally. Any questions? Mike and then Graham. Yep.
Thank you. Through the chair, Sally, it's not really part of the report, but just a question that came off a meeting a few meetings ago with regard that the motocross club in Cambridge. And I think it was Graham made a comment that, hey, there is one over here, and have they ever thought about that? But I'm just wondering whether you're working with that group because their resource consent's coming up with no obvious place to go. Just wondering whether any work's been done around that.
Yes, I am aware that recently there has been a meeting with the club as well as our property team who manage that lease. So yes, there are discussions underway with them around their lease and that resource consent. Yeah.
Graham.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Sally, Barry Bergen and I went out before the new toilets in Parongia, and the effluent field was a huge issue out there. And I know that we haven't had the visitors, so we haven't got a lot of buses stopping there. Are we confident with what we've put in that we've solved that issue, especially around the play centre and the soakage up through the lawn and what have you?
Yes, through the chair, the team are confident in terms of the new work set to resolve those issues and recognising the impact that those issues have had on the community previously. So my team had been in contact regularly with the play centre up to the new toilets going in. So yes.
Thanks. Any other questions? I've just got a quick question, Sally, just around the Te Arawai journeys. So I see there's been a significant number of new users, which is excellent. Is there a way to break that down so we can see which sites are perhaps more used than others? Or yeah, I'm interested to see which sites actually are more popular, I guess.
Yeah, so we'll need to ask the team if it is broken down any further. So let me come back to you on that one.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
So I think one of the things just on that, over the Christmas period and obviously with being closed, we are having a new sign installed in front of the museum, and that will identify where the connection with Te Arawai journeys as well as the brochures in there as well. So that we try and get that use up as well. So yeah.
Okay. All right, everyone, if there's no other questions for Sally, we have a recommendation to move her and receive her report. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Andrew. All in favour? Carried. Okay, everybody, we'll break for morning tea and we'll come back at, say, 10:10 for our next item. Thanks. Everybody, we shall resume. Resume on Zoom and everything else. Okay, now I'd like to welcome Graham Pollard, who I think is, yes, you are still here. We're going to be taking a look at the Waipa District Council Trade Waste Bylaw and the Wastewater Drainage Bylaw. Morning, Graham. You got the goodie this morning? He does.
There you go. Right, that's it. Has been a little while. Right, good morning, everyone. This is hopefully fairly straightforward, but as a way of introduction, Council's current bylaws for managing trade waste and wastewater drainage are due for their 10-yearly review under the Local Government Act. Now, these bylaws fill a legislative gap in that there's no statute that we can currently rely on for enforcing trade waste or wastewater rules. So this report aims for the committee's determination that these two bylaws should be reviewed and retained. But because these services are part of a shared service agreement with Hamilton City Council, and because Hamilton City Council have combined these two functions into a single bylaw, rather than our two, the staff recommendation to you is that we both review the bylaws and merge them to create a new single bylaw, which results then hopefully in regulatory consistency across the shared service partners. That's all I wanted to just say as an introduction. I take the report and the bylaws as read. And open to any questions. I've got technical support as well if you've got any questions I cannot answer.
Excellent. Now, thanks, Graham. Okay, any questions for Graham on this item? No, then I think we're all in agreement. So we've got recommendations A, B, and C. If someone would like to move the recommendation. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Jim. All in favour? Carried. Thank you, everybody. That was nice and quick. We'll move on to item. Oh, right. Okay, so David Topman is going to be presenting our Hamilton Waikato Metro Spatial Plan. So we'll just take a 1-minute breather if that's all right with everybody, and we'll just wait for David to arrive. How far does he? Hey everybody, I think what we'll do is we might just bring another item forward while we're waiting for David. So I'm just thinking, looking at, okay, we won't do that. We'll just stick with plan. David, we are welcoming you to the chair as you walk in the door. Sorry, I hope you're not out of breath after climbing those stairs. But yeah, no, thanks. Thanks for everything.
Good morning.
And, coming
Good
in
morning,
earlier.
everyone. Morena. So my item is something I just ask you if I can take it as read. So I won't keep you, and I owe you an apology for my last discussion with you, the workshop session last week. It went on way too long, so apologies. Yeah, this is just simply about the Hamilton Waikato Metro Spatial Plan, and it's finally been approved by FPIC, the Future Proof Implementation Committee, and that means it's a fait accompli. It's been finalized as a document, and in terms of us, yeah, it has implications in terms of our future. We need to take on board some of the elements in this, and we will be in terms of our spatial plan. But I think more importantly, it probably for the first time is a recognition by Hamilton that the game is bigger than just the city. It's its neighbors as well. So that's for us a significant milestone, I think, in this document. And I think the other thing to say, it was done in a very short period of time, 18 months. It was driven initially by central government, but during the process, it became owned by the Future Proof Partner Council. So it was a journey. It remains a collaboration with central government. I think they contribute funding for enabling the realization of some of the ambitions in this document. And the other thing is it's probably likely to be iterative in that we're going to see further work on it. It's not a kind of blueprint for the future. It's a first step at a long-term vision. But I think the really good things, we finally have a plan that talks about the future of this sub-region, which we haven't really had before. So that's good. As a district and council, we are looking to embark on our own kind of spatial planning enterprise, and we'll talk more with you in due course in the early, probably in the early new year. Yeah, and then if there are any questions.
Claire, and then Roger.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a pretty exciting plan and it looks like it's been well put together.
Yeah.
I do have a couple of questions though. Yeah, firstly, on page 10 of the plan,
Yep.
or 91 of our agenda, yeah, on the right-hand side, there's a list of bullet points.
Yep.
And the second to last bullet point, it's talking about the benefits of spatial planning, including reduced runoff from vehicles. Well, I'd actually thought that is not actually a big benefit. I think that there's something wrong with that statement. I would have thought it'd be reduced runoff from perhaps, like the roads, because we've got fewer roads or something. It's not the vehicles that are causing, it's not runoff from vehicles that are causing problems with stormwater.
No.
No. Yeah, okay.
It looks like an error.
Yeah. And then on page 31, community and other infrastructure, there's a lovely map there that shows the location of key things. I noticed that the Don Rowlands Centre isn't even there. And I think it should be, because it's of regional significance, and whether it's a sporting centre or a, event centre or something,
Yep.
I think it should be there.
Yep.
I also noted there was no horse racing in Tuamutu or Cambridge, but that might be intentional, I don't know. And the TA Sports Centre was missing in the Kiwi domain as well. So that was just questions I had about those. And it isn't covered in here, but I'm really keen to see a business plan for the rail link to Hamilton.
Right.
Now, I understand that there's one around, but us councillors haven't seen it yet, and I don't see why other people should have it and we haven't, because there's important cost implications, and the longer we have to digest a business case, the better. Yeah, so yeah, I suppose I'm not being grumpy, but I think we need to have that moved along.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard other people say they've seen it, but why haven't we seen it?
Yep. Let me follow up on that through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Claire. Really valid comments. Any other questions, Roger?
Yeah, thanks. And thanks, Deb. I think just a general comment to start with is that it's throughout the report, so many of the areas it talks about the radical shift in mode of transport, which of course is great for us because we're looking at transport and cycling, but also the public transport inference is there as well that CAMP supports. And to some level, the case of public transport system for Cambridge. But similar to Claire, I went through and looking at the transport plan, and I looked very closely to see if I could see a rail corridor from Hamilton to Cambridge, and I can't see it in any of the diagrams here. I'm also concerned that is not part of the overall plan. I'm not saying coming into Cambridge, but certainly into Houghton, especially as Houghton grows into an industrial centre, then that real linkage would be essential. But it's not, I can't see it unless you can tell me where it is.
Yeah.
In any of those diagrams.
Yep. I'll follow up and come back to you as councillors on that. I mean, my understanding was that the idea was to retain that corridor, notwithstanding that there was certainty as to if and when it might be developed. But the last thing we want to do is lose existing corridors. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. And that is exactly right. I think, Jim, in our meetings, the corridor is already there. It's nothing new. It will be retained and be used in the future. And it's a significant, part of any future planning. And so Lou and then Philip.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just for you, I read the report and thank you very much, David. I think it has, but it lacks to me some direction and just what we're going to be doing, because the government has actually signed up to an agreement and we've got to reduce our carbon credits or our carbon by 50% by 2030. And that is going to impact, there was already talk in other countries of seeing the internal combustion engine actually being reduced to nil. No imports. I know it's being presented at the moment by the Greens. However, that is being implemented overseas. What I worry about is what are we going to do as alternative transport? The internal combustion engine is a vital part of all of our transport. It is a part of our freight movement and everything. So we've got to start, I think, looking radically at other issues. And in a plan like this, perhaps it should have a little bit more detail. And in that, I agree with Roger for a little bit. We just don't have that detail. I'd like to see a little bit more of that, David. Thank you.
I think that's a really good point.
Just adding on to the rail corridor too, when we put the cycle track along the Hautapu railway track from St Andrews out to Hautapu, there's no way Kiwi Rail are going to give that land up, and that wouldn't have changed either.
No.
Through to Hamilton now too, so yeah, that's here to stay.
It's here to stay. Yeah. Jim, did you have a comment?
Just a comment, I suppose, and for clarification, David, in terms of this plan, this is now going out for public comment, isn't it?
Not directly. So the plan of what to do with it is, in terms of the public consultation, is to put it into future-proof, into the revision of the future-proof strategy, which will happen next year, along with the corridor plan document, and then to do public consultation on the whole thing.
Yeah, okay. So from a statutory perspective, this has no legal rights, I suppose. It's just an agreement between the parties to consider these issues. But when it comes to our district plan or anything that we're doing from a formal perspective, this has no, I suppose, legal or statutory status over what we're doing.
That would certainly be my understanding, Mayor Jim. I think the idea is, if you remember, I made this point, is the difficulty we were getting into is we had all these initiatives being done separately. We had the Hamilton to Auckland corridor work, we had the Metro Plan work, and we had Future Proof being revised as 3 separate work streams. And the realization was we needed to consolidate it to make it manageable. And the agreement was to put it all under Future Proof and then do public consultation on all 3. And then you'll all know that currently Future Proof is given effect through the RPS in the first instance, and then through district plans on the other. And so my understanding is, yes, as it stands, no statutory significance, and it'll only be once it's embedded in Future Proof, and Future Proof is in turn picked up in things like the RPS, then we'll see some teeth being given to it. But I think the idea more than that would be that it's picked up in various other statutory documents and given effect.
Yeah, because I suppose the point, and I think it comes from Claire's questions regarding the rail links, is that this is a visionary document, I suppose, high level. And the problem with it is that there's no dollars attached to this. And how we're actually going to pay for it, it's going to, if it's going to be delivered on, it's all of this work is going to actually have to appear in our 10-year plan effectively. So the point I'm trying to make is that this is not a document that's set in stone that we actually have to comply with. There's still a whole lot of processes that we need to go through to actually get the necessary funding to actually deliver on it. So, and your point in terms of the rail, I think is a real concern that we don't actually know yet. I haven't seen the document that you're talking about, Claire. I don't know which one it could be, but in terms of actually what the cost implications are of rail links, whether it be from Hamilton to Auckland or Hamilton to Cambridge or wherever it might be, there's huge costs. And does our population warrant that? And at what point does it?
If you are interested as a committee, I am aware there was a presentation by central government to Future Proof regarding the business case, the preliminary business case for upgrading the rail service from Hamilton to Auckland to make it a competitive option to using the motorway currently. In other words, bringing the time it takes for passenger rail to actually be competitive. And it, as you said, Mayor Jim, it's big dollars, 28 to 30 billion.
One thing that has been continually reinforced by central government is that there's no money.
No.
So if this is anything in here, it's going to have to be funded by ratepayers effectively, or users in terms of the. But Minister Twyford has continually said there's no central government funding. No. So unless that starts coming to the fore, I think we're going to have trouble delivering on a lot of this.
Jim, I was just going to say, in terms of that, the business case for the rail from Hamilton to Auckland is $62.50 a ticket. So they're going to make it $12.50. So there's a $50 subsidy going to happen. And I don't quite know where that's coming from, but it seems to be out of the reach of a heck of a lot of people. And the trouble is it's been put off because they've discovered the railway lines are not right.
Inadequate.
As they get adequate. So it goes back and back and back. It's a hell of a shame.
So it's interesting to see that some people do know some pricing around. Yeah. It'd be good to have more detail on that. But I mean, Councillor Brown here has said that we're under pressure. 2030, we'll be looking for a big reduction in emissions. If we're putting our hopes on this train, it's going to take more than 10 years to put it in place. That's my understanding of it. I've got a husband who's a train enthusiast, and he's been telling me how hopeless that rail link is between Hamilton and Auckland and all the challenges that, the topography gives. Yeah. So, I think we've got to be, I'd really like that kind of question to be, or lens to be put over this kind of planning, because if it's going to take 20 or 30 years to do it, we've got to have a plan B. We've got to be working on it now.
Need to know it only goes to Pukekohe, then you've got to get on a bus and you go to a bus to Drury, and that's where you catch the quote fast train into Britomart, but Britomart can't handle it at the moment.
No.
And Auckland Transport are looking at electrifying, so you know, it ain't a fast train. People talk about this fast train. I can tell you, when you go across the Waimarina Swamp, the speed limit's 30 k's, and that's not fast.
No.
Through Madam Chair. Yeah, just with regards to the railway, the tracks aren't suitable for fast passenger rail, but what about freight trains? Because we've got the development of Ruakura over the next few years, and you know, we've got the biggest exporting port only an hour or so away, and the biggest importing port an hour or so away. So are the tracks capable for that to get more goods trains on the tracks? And we've got the Cambridge Expressway now, which has been open for about 5-6 years. The traffic numbers are back up to where they were, but it's still a lot better because we haven't got the trucks coming through town. So if we can get the trucks off the road with Ruakura and everything like that, that'll make a massive difference. So should they be focusing on that rather than passenger railway?
That's a really good point, Councillor. And I think, again, if we're talking about long term, even if the argument doesn't stack up with passenger rail, you would think there's a very solid case for the movement of freight and getting it off roads and into rail, much more than we currently do. Yeah. And especially if we're thinking about climate change and taking our commitments there seriously. And we're going to be compelled to. It's whether we're proactive or end up being reactive. Yeah, thank you.
Just to follow on exactly with what Councillor Coles was saying, we talked a little bit about the rail and freight going through the Conway Tunnel, and we don't utilise that tunnel to its full extent by a long way. And they were saying that in Europe, and I've seen this in actual fact, where a tunnel has parallel lines on either side, and the train is in that tunnel 24/7, going either or either way and passing each other. Whereas at the moment, we actually exit the train and it has to actually virtually go right to the other end. But we've got a barrier with the Kaimais, and I've driven up there and I've ridden motorbikes up there many times. The amount of containers going over and logs, etc., going over those mountains is phenomenal, and it's unsustainable at the moment. It should be being looked at quite carefully.
And again, just reiterating the development of Ruakura, we're going to get more and more trucks, and it's only essential that we get them off the road as much as possible and use the railway.
Just to follow up with you, Councillor Coles, is also at the present point in time, shipping companies are actually charging a levy for any collection in the Port of Auckland, simply because their turnaround times are so slow. And this is impacting on everything. They've got a backlog on their wharves at the moment that are 3 months long, so of containers sitting there.
Thank you.
Just want to say that Kiwi Rail have put 2 parallel lines, one at each side in Tauranga and in the Conways at Walton. So the trains wait there until the one's exited and they go through. So there's 28 trains going through there. We went up to the portal and met with Kiwi Rail, and the tunnel can't be used for passengers because of the pollution. The other staggering thing is that when the tide comes in Tauranga, it pushes the air through this side at 4 kilometres an hour. When the tide goes out, the air goes back from the Waikato through the tunnel. Yep, it's the least resistance. Yeah. We also found out that because of the pollution, that they have to take oxygen onto the trains just in case the pollution gets too bad. So the drivers have got the ability to put an oxygen mask on.
A little off track now. But very interesting. Thank you. Very interesting. Hey, I'm just going to give a 1 minute reminder, Gary. We're going to pop you on a bit earlier if that's all right. Yep. Okay. Okay. So we've got a recommendation. Unless there's any other conversations around this. Thank you, David, for your report. We've got a recommendation. Can I have a move and a second to be received? Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Philip. All in favour? Carried. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Okay, so we're just going to jump ahead a little bit, everybody, because we have some guests for the Enviro schools that have not yet arrived. So we're just going to move to the update on COVID-19 recovery. Gary Knighton is here to present that. We'll come back to Enviro schools a little bit later.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Morena tātou. So I'm just in Debbie's absence. I just presenting you the update on the COVID-19 recovery, and have Gina with me, who you've all met, I think. So we'll talk a little bit at the end. So yeah, just the key aspects I wanted to cover off this morning, picking up on earlier discussions and decisions you've made in this by council. So first of all, on the establishment of the COVID recovery fund, the establishment of a working group to administer that fund, additional funding that's been made available for events, and that's included in Appendix 1, and the establishment of the community advisor roles. So also included for information in the paper is Waikato Tainui's response, their resilience plan, and data from Infometrics, their most recent forecasting work. So yeah, internally a project control group's been established, and to ensure that the recovery is established in an effective way and monitored from a staff perspective. The Waikato Recovery Fund, the Waipa Recovery Fund, so a working group has been established around that, and the membership of that committee was included in your papers, and includes yourself, Madam Chair, Councillor O'Regan, Ronald Kirkwood from Trust Waikato, Shane Taruki, Employment Relations Advisor, Poto Davies as one iwi rep, Shannon Tahuia as the other, Harriet Dixon, who is the manager of the Cambridge Community House, and Jess Brown, who's the Te Awamutu Citizens Advice Bureau manager. So the fund is a 400k fund, 2 tranches. The first tranche of 200,000, 12 applications were received for that, totaling 330,000, and the working group met and went through each of those applications and made 5 grants, totaling $141,000. So there were 7 grants that did not receive funding for various reasons, but by and large, because I think the feeling was that it was more business as usual that they were applying for, or there was no clear link to the COVID or the COVID recovery. So that leaves now $285,000 to be allocated, and that will go basically into the second tranche. And the community advisors will be probably looking at more of an invitation-only type basis for those applications. That was always sort of the intent of the fund for that second round. So the grants that were made, listed on, I think, page 143 of your agenda there: Ngāti Karaki Kahukura Trust, Ngāti Apakura, Cambridge Committee of Social Services, Citizens Advice Te Awamutu, and the Cambridge Community House got a significant grant for council and social work, social worker. Should also note there were, I guess, a number of conflicts of interest around the working group table, and they were handled by that member leaving the room while that grant was assessed. We are also working with iwi in a number of ways. First of all, with Waikato Tainui, and as I said, their resilience plan is included as an appendix here. Through our JMA, we're looking where possible, where we can work with them on those, on their sort of key projects there. But you know, I guess some of them are more, more amenable to that than others. But yeah, we will continue to work through with them on that. Secondly, with Maniapoto Trust Board, looking at partnership there. We've had a mayoral meeting with His Worship and mayors of Otorohanga, Waitomo and Ruapehu districts, and they have, I think, it was a pretty fruitful meeting with Maniapoto, and looking to invite some cabinet ministers to that to help establish that as a partnership. And I think sort of looking at employment and housing type issues as the first up around that strategic approach. And yeah, finally, the community advisors. So we received a number of excellent applications for those positions, and finally selected Corinne and Gina. Corinne couldn't be here this morning, but got Gina here who's probably just give you a little bit of a heads up on what the first 3 weeks have looked like. Yes, 3 weeks in. A lot of meetings with other agencies, individuals, and yeah, just trying to assess what's happening out in the community. If we can get some metrics on that, what data we can pull, and what the stresses and opportunities are that lie out there. But Gina, I'll pass it over to you. Just give a bit of a...
Kia ora koutou. So yep, like Gary said, 3 weeks in, and it's been a really full-on 3 weeks for us. But we've been really amazed at the response that we've had from the community. Like, at no stage have we made approaches to people to try and hook up with appointments. At no stage has anyone said no. Everyone's just like, absolutely, when can you be here? So that's really encouraging. And obviously the council saw the need for that. So we're very appreciative of your vision and your support of these roles. We've visited a really wide cross-section of community organisations and businesses already. So just to name a few, we've been in community houses, we've been in a couple of schools, we've been safer communities, community support groups. We've met with police, both Cambridge and Te Awamutu. We've met sports clubs, we've been with Kāinga Ora, we've met with MSD, CAB and Eyesight, individuals within the community. And that's pretty just to name sort of, a few of them. So that's been really interesting to see just, where they sit, where they think the gaps are and stuff. So at this stage, just early indications for us. Housing, obviously, that's no surprise. That's the one that comes up all of the time, just about in every meeting we've been to, and that's across all levels, not just social housing, but also just rentals, purchasing, those kinds of things. Yep, so housing is the big one. Social services is another one that seems to be a real shortage. People are saying there's lack of service in the community around like social work, counselling, those kind of support areas. And what is there seems to be a real lack of coordinated approach between what's out there, and then a lack of consistency as well. So those are certainly areas that we will be looking at to see how we can kind of maybe potentially help streamline some of those, and then also to trying to have access to other services, because we know that there are a few available, like on the outskirts of Cambridge and Te Awamutu, so potentially can we link with them as well. So we have plans to meet with another couple, so within the next couple of weeks, which is great. Youth support, that's another one that's coming up. The lack of mentors within, our youth, and typically in the old days, I guess they would have got that from home, but in a lot of cases now, home doesn't provide that as much. So opportunities, we're looking at opportunities to try and create mentors or groups of mentors, however we might get that over the line. I'm not sure, but we're working on that. And just simple things for youth, like being able to access driver's licenses to be able to, get to a job or to, CVs. So those kinds of things are really lacking out there, but we're looking at opportunities hopefully to support that. And then I guess the biggest or the last one for me that has really stuck out is there are so many amazing community organisations within Cambridge, Te Awamutu, and then obviously your outskirts, Kiki, Purongia, Kohapo. But really interesting that to me that a few of them have got all of this, same ideas, but they're not working together. So in actual fact, they're actually putting more pressure on our volunteer numbers, which we know we're all short, and pressure on limited funding opportunities as well to try and get their initiatives over the line. So that's an area that I'd really like to do some work in, trying to just to streamline those community services and just make the most of the people that we've got out there doing the good stuff. So, but that's me. I'm not going to keep you any longer, but obviously our door's always open. If there's anything that you'd like to chat about, find out more about, just give us a shout, because we really love to hear what you're thinking. So we're there, and thanks for the opportunity to speak today.
Gina, just, and I know it's only early times, but have there been any, the information you've given us, I suppose there's been predictions how bad it's going to be, might be wrong, but have there been any real surprises to you that issues that we possibly haven't thought of that are out there? I know, as I say, I appreciate you've only been here 3 weeks, but is there some sort of glaring deficiency? Housing is obviously one that we were all aware of, unemployment, but are there other issues brewing out there?
To be honest, I'm probably have been a little bit surprised at the mental well-being of people. And is that COVID related? I'm not 100% sure of that, to be honest. I think it's definitely just the impression that I've got in the last 3 weeks that it has been something that's been there for a while, but there just hasn't been anyone kind of, down on the ground asking those questions. I think that probably is the biggest one for me. Yeah.
Possibly differential in servicing between the two towns as well. I think there are some gaps, bigger gaps over in Te Awamutu, counselling and that sort of thing seems to be coming through. So, we're just trying to get a bit more of a handle on that as well.
The other thing too, though, I guess that surprised me a little bit is the lack of coordinated approach between sort of like kāinga ora, let's say, and MSD. And the other thing is how difficult, we talk about housing and the shortages, and obviously that's no surprise, but how hard it is for people to actually register as being in need of a home or a house. Those processes are not as simple as we might like to think they would be. And to the point where people are just like, it's too hard, I'm not going to actually put my name on the list. So quite often those stats that we're seeing are actually not reflecting what's happening. So
yes, through the chair, you're only a phone call and email away, but are you both based here or based in Cambridge, or one or the other, or no fixed abode? Or?
Still a work in progress at the moment. But
potentially we might. We haven't quite got them both working together at the moment, but I think as we go along, I think they'll start to develop their own portfolios and things. So we'll keep you in the loop on how that goes. But potentially it may be a couple of days a week in Cambridge, a couple of days over here. We haven't found a permanent spot for them yet, so
transient.
Yeah. We've been looking for it in the newspaper.
Stop it.
Sorry. So yeah, it sounds like you're really busy and you've interacted with a lot of people, so that's fantastic. Gary, more a question for yourself. That Waipa Recovery Fund, and I haven't looked at the details of the rules around it. Can you only apply for that once, or how does that work?
Well, I think what we've said for the second tranche is that it would be by invitation only. So at this stage, that's probably where we're looking at. But you know, if we can identify potential groups that we could work with, you know, that's something we can get Gina and Corinne to have a look at those groups. And that doesn't mean, you know, some of these groups here that have already got a grant in the first round might be in a position to go for a second round grant as well.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how that's going to look with, I mean, you rattled off a bunch of organisations there, and as you said, you only touched the top of the sort of, whatever the saying is anyway. There's many organisations out there. I'm just wondering how it would sort of look if some of these, not double dip, but applied twice and were successful. So, yeah, I just hope we do go really wide. We've really left it in you know, yourself, Gina, and Corinne's lap to sort of come back with some really good projects out there that they're going to need some support.
Thanks through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, thanks for that, Gina. It was interesting. Like you said, housing shortage is no surprise, and when you look at the causes, the lack of government funding and low-cost housing for the last 30 years has certainly caught up with us, and it's not going to be a problem that's going to be solved on this council table in any hurry, unfortunately. Your other comments about, we have lots of good community groups, there's no two ways about it, and yeah, I think one of your key roles is definitely going to be coordination and efficiencies, gaining efficiencies with those groups out there. And yeah, your comments about mental health too, it is concerning. I agree with you. I don't think it's all COVID related at all. We've had a growing need in that area. And it's great to see you two focusing in on those things. So keep up the good work.
Actually, just off the back of what Andrew's talked about there, I totally agree with both your comments. The other thing I've started noticing is because of COVID, a lot of pressures coming on people in work, because a lot of stuff's got condensed. Now it's got condensed towards the back half of the year because things are doubled up, things were postponed, etc., etc. They're now happening, and the workload on people is quite intense. So yeah, just seeing it around the traps, I think that mental well-being is a real concern with staff themselves, but also these, you know, a lot of these folks out in the district here have got families either in New Zealand, out of New Zealand, who are also suffering, which also actually impacts on their mental well-being, particularly because they can't actually get to travel to them when they're really in need. So it's a really complex scenario that I think we find ourselves in at the moment.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Great. I realise that the area that you're getting into is very much the social and services area currently, but are you getting any feedback and information on the business and commercial environment that's out there, and what's going to happen when all of these wage subsidies start to drop off? And of course, that's got a huge social implication. So you're getting any chance to gauge?
We've talked to just a couple of local businesses, just random, kind of wandered in off the street. And the couple that we have talked to have both said that they are actually ahead of where they were this time last year, even with the break. They are not seeing the wage subsidy ending as being the issue. They are seeing supply being the issue. So actually getting the imports, getting the stock on the floor, is going to be the main issue for them, because just obviously the shipping has got some real drama happening there, so and high cost. So that for them, but the rest of it was the projection was, well, from what we've seen, everybody's pretty positive.
Yeah, if I can add a little bit of commentary, we're seeing some new businesses start up. We're seeing a few people come back to New Zealand from offshore, looking at new businesses. Our main streets are still quite vibrant. Consumer spending has recovered. and pedestrian counts are very good. Hospitality is still, well, hospitality is recovered with people stuck in town. We're also supporting the regional business partners' ongoing work with our SMEs. So in the new year, we'll have some SME events to access the government's kind of SME coaching and business advisory fund. We're working with the Cambridge Chamber, particularly on an employer matching program. Even though job seekers have gone up, companies are still got issues around skills, and yet some of them are getting hundreds of applications for jobs. So it's a very confused picture out there, and if we can match employers to employees in the new year, that'll be a good thing. And in our economic development strategy, we're looking at what are our important sectors, and Te Waka are also doing that. And in addition to their economic development strategy, Waikato Regional Council are refreshing their economic development strategy. Because spending's recovered, that's not to say there's not serious problems out there on individual and business levels. There are, and it's being masked by a general look of well-being, but there's still a lot of issues out there, and they're yet to come through in the new year.
That's right. Thank you very much, through you, Chair. I was quite concerned when you talked about the adequacy of signing up or getting a need for a house. And I looked at that quite seriously, because I've been involved with some support and welfare from an organisation I'm with. And I do know that a lot of people find it completely deterred by the size of the form. And I wonder whether this is almost deliberately done sometimes to defer the problem a little, you know, and just keep the figures down. Because many of the people you're talking with do have a problem with literacy, and they do have a problem with information sharing. And it's whether we can develop something to help them, whether you have advocates or somebody to help them a little, because I think that's a really critical area, and actually have had a little bit of experience with it. So I do think that that's something perhaps we have to develop, particularly with the agencies that are putting these out.
Myself on, yes. The group that was pulled together, I think, was one of the best groups that I've worked with in terms of external engagement with our community. It was a real privilege, and I can tell you each one of the members here, you know, really represented their, you know, the whole of the Waipa. And yeah, I was really impressed actually with the decisions that were made on the day. But just wanted to make note that, and a big thank you to those who you know, were able to join us and represent Waipa. So that big thank you to that group. All right, so can I have a recommendation to receive the report, please? A mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Alvin. Thank you, Mike. All in favour? Carried. Okay, now I'm not sure if our Enviro schools are here yet. They are here. Okay, we will welcome them in. Hi, Christina. Are you ready for us? The crowd is on its way. That's excellent. Hello, welcome. Sorry, it feels a bit daunting, I know, walking into this room, but if you'd like to take a couple of the chairs up the front there. And this, we've got some students as well. Excellent. Oh, wow. Welcome, everybody. Don't be afraid. We're
Okay, hey, look, I'll just welcome you all first. My name is Liz, and I'm the chair of this committee today. And all the people that you can see around the room here are councillors. Okay, so don't be afraid. It's really, really great to have you here. Chrissy, I'll let you open the item, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm just going to keep this very short from my end. So I have recently taken over the role of being the key contact person within Council for the Enviro Schools program, and working in partnership with Regional Council through that. So as part of that partnership agreement that is mentioned in my report as well, Regional Council does an annual report. So without further ado, I will hand over to those two representatives, and I'll leave it to you to introduce yourself, I think.
Thank you, Christina. Good morning, Mayor, councillors, Madam Chair. Look, it's great to be here today to talk about something that's very passionate to our hearts, and that's Enviro Schools. And we have some very special guests for you today. We have some students from Hora School and Parongia School who are going to share their environmental journeys that they've been on through Enviro Schools with you all. So Chris and I, so I'm Dominique, the Stakeholder Partnerships Advisor for the Waikato Regional Council, and alongside me is Chris Langley, who's our Regional Coordinator for the Enviro Schools program. So today we will make our presentation relatively brief because, as I said, we want these our students to actually be the stars today. But we'll start by just going through and just giving you a bit of an understanding of Enviro Schools, what it is, and talk about, you know, how Enviro Schools operates within the Waipa district, and then we'll hand over to our amazing students.
Where do I point this? Yeah, sorry, I'm pushing the button.
Doesn't seem to want to work.
I'll get started just while we're having that. So I thought I'd begin by just giving a bit of a, I guess, introduction to what Enviro Schools actually is, as you guys fund it. So Enviro Schools is it's a kaupapa. It's a philosophy that that schools take on, and the whole purpose of it is around fostering a generation of sustainable thinkers, so that when these young people grow up and start sitting in the seats that you're in, they are operating with an environmental mindset, a sustainable conscience, and are more likely to make decisions that in turn will benefit the world. So yeah, we're trying to change the world, and we're doing it through inspiring children. So it's an awesome program. How it works is essentially it provides a framework for a school to work in, which helps to shift the practices and the attitudes and the mindsets in a school from the top right down to the bottom, to get that school operating in a way where sustainable thinking is at the forefront. So that goes from every single aspect of that school. And it's all done through action. So what will happen is you'll hear stories of these students who are undertaking projects and actions in their school, which will change not just the community of their school, but their wider community as well. So in terms of, without the presentation, I haven't got the exact numbers, but we have a range of schools, obviously, in the Waipa that go from ECEs right through to secondary schools, which is really great. And we're trying to really grow the secondary space because we know we see the benefit from the ECE students becoming primary school students and bringing the knowledge along with them. And then what's happening in some areas is it's being lost in the secondary space. And then when they move into their vocations, they don't necessarily have those same values instilled in them that they had in their primary school years. So we're really trying to grow the program. But kudos to Waipa. You have a number of secondary schools. I think it's 7. I don't want to give the number off the top of my head, but you have a number of secondary schools, which is above lots of other districts in the Waikato. So that's really, really good. Yeah, I guess. Yep. I don't want to pass it on to the students without the presentation either, because we'll heavily rely on that. Are we?
Well, I can talk about the collaboration. So the Enviro Schools program works on a highly collaborative model. And so the bulk of the funding comes from the Ministry for the Environment, so around $10 million. And through that, the Toimata Foundation create the IP for the EnviroSchools program. And so from there, it's through the regional councils that it's delivered. So we have a number of facilitators across our region, 5 EnviroSchools facilitators who then go out and work with the Ministry of Education, namely the teachers, to empower them to deliver the program to the students. And so whilst the Ministry of Education doesn't actually have, this is the diagram here, put in any funds per se, it's in-kind funding. And so through that in-kind funding, they are giving teachers teacher release time to be able to then deliver. And then from there, it goes out to the community. So it's then where the students who are taking their learnings, they're taking them beyond the school gates, and they are teaching at home, and they are also, you know, undertaking a number of community projects. So the good news is that for every dollar spent, I think there's $1.70 return. So it's quite significant. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't want to set these kids up, but might we need to just rattle on anyway? Or
Yes.
no, that's not the
no,
presentation.
That's the 6-monthly report. Yeah.
If you just leave it like that, that's probably enough.
Yeah.
If you can just go through the slides like that, it just freezes. Okay.
Okay.
I guess while we're on this slide, while it's actually working, you can get a sense of the type of, I guess, themes that the students will work through in terms of EnviroSchools. So you can see the percentages is the percentage of all of our EnviroSchools, so nationwide, so over 1,000 schools, what percentage of those schools have undertaken projects within these different categories. So you can see zero waste is a huge thing that is looked at, along with kite production and projects around biodiversity are really popular as well. And you can also see the 4 wellbeings are focused on through the EnviroSchools program as well. So which is great, because I know that meets a lot of the needs that councils are requiring. So it is a great model which builds a sustainable community. You guys feel like you might be able to just even think about So I'll just introduce. So these are 2 lovely students who will introduce themselves, but they're from Horror School.
Stand or sit down? What would be best?
Sit down.
Well done.
Ko maunga tau te te maunga, ko waikato te awa, ko hora hora te kura.
Hello, my name is Darren, and I am one of the Enviro leaders from Hora Hora School.
Hello, my name is Nikodema, and I'm the other Enviro leader at Hora Hora School. Our school is seated at the base of Maungatututi and near the Waikato River. We are very lucky because our school is near Maungatututi Sanctuary. We even have a bellbird living on our school grounds. Today we're going to tell you about our school's Enviro plans. Our school is on an Enviro journey. A couple of years ago, we made a plan that came with the help of Alex, our Enviro school leader.
I'm going to speak about our school's tree for survival. We grow over 500 plants every year and take care of them. We pot them and weed them until they're big enough so we can transplant them to a local farm for riparian planting. It's a bit of hard work, but it's all worth it because we are doing our part in the environment to help our local waterways.
We've had our vegetable garden for about 10 years. Adults and parents used to take care of the vegetable garden. Now it's all up to us to take care of the garden. This year we planted a whole bit of herbs, a variety of brassicas, rock potatoes, and strawberries. 2 weeks ago, we made broccoli salad, and last week we harvested potatoes and cabbages.
An area introduced plants and 1 punga tree. We chopped the introduced trees and shrubs down. When we chopped the punga tree down, we read a book called Rata and the Waka. We also spoke about the importance of all the trees and the natives. The plan is to replant this area in native shrubs that won't grow so large and shade the building. It will also be here for native animals.
We have a worm farm for all our school's fruit scraps, so the worms can make fertilizer for the other plants. We also have a scrap bin that says what can and can't go on the worm farm. For example, fruit, vegetables, tea bags, eggshells, dust, and hair are allowed in the worm farm, but citrus fruits, tomatoes, onions, dairy products, greasy foods, pasta, bread, fish, meat, and garden waste are not allowed in the worm farm.
Marianne works at Takaputua Estate and sets the traps there. Marianne is a woman that comes to our school and sets up the traps with us as well. We have 4 to 5 traps and 3 to 4 trapping tunnels around our school. We have caught some mice, a rat, 1 possum, and a hedgehog. The bait that we used were tea bags, peanut butter, and eggs.
Behind our library we have some fruit trees that are currently growing, but some are blooming. The fruit trees are apple, plum, feijoa, apricot, and nectarine. In a couple of years or so, the fruit trees will be done growing.
And I think they might taste delicious. Last and definitely not least, the outdoor classroom. In this photo, you can see a lot of sticks and trees. Our school is planning to change it to an outdoor classroom. We are really excited for this because it's an outdoor classroom. We will spend a lot of time in the outdoor classroom on sunny days and do a lot of outdoor work. The plans for our outdoor classroom includes a fire pit, a wet area for water testing, and a rongo garden. Thank you for listening.
Through the chair, can I just make a couple of comments? That was fantastic. I love that. I was actually principal at Horahora School long before you were born, in the late 90s and maybe up to 2001. So back then, Enviro schools, as it said here, I think started in 2001. But just to let you know a little bit of background of where your journey started, it started with a little donation from the South Waikato District Council for that nursery that you've got, and maybe it's been upgraded of about $600. And the children, just like yourself, got in behind that and planted seedlings into little trees. And we used to go up the Pokai Whenua, which is opposite Finlay Park there, and planted all the riparian rights up through there. So I think in 3 years, the children planted over 3,000 trees. So that journey started 20 odd years ago. And it's just great to see where you folk have taken it to. You've actually taken it to another level. So very proud of what you're still doing out there. Fantastic. Well done, team.
And I'd just like to say congratulations too on the fantastic work you've done. And I see that you're also considering native planting to link the Maunga with the Awa, you know, with Waikato River, is that right? Yeah, as part of a corridor. And with my role with the Pirongia Restoration Society, we're promoting a corridor that would link Pirongia Maunga with Mangatautari, and so you actually could be part of that. So yeah, I just thought it'd be awesome if you'd consider, yeah, coming in with us on that more landscape project. Yeah, but well done, everyone.
Excuse me. Yeah, congratulations. Well done for coming today and giving us a great presentation. So your traps, you got enough traps? Resthaven and Cambridge make traps. The men's shed at Resthaven and Cambridge make the traps for predator-free Cambridge. So we may be able to get you some more traps there too if you need some. You got enough traps? Or how many have you got?
3 to 4 to 5.
Just one more little thing too, that Blackwood forest, Blackwoods, yes, they were before there were redwoods, and the children used to go and play in there. And I'm sure you guys still go and play in there. Do you still do that? Play in those Blackwood forests and behind the school? Are you allowed to play in there? Oh, you need to, I could talk to Mrs. Singh for you and we'll sort that out.
It doesn't. Yeah, it might be easy. We'll pull these away. And I'll put speaking. Do you want to try and speak into the microphone?
In our goal to reach the Silver Enviro Award, our school thought having student input and involvement in enviro aspects would benefit the school, environment, and get the students more invested in nature. So they opened a position to the senior school students of the school who wanted to get involved in being Mother Nature's minions. Once enough students had put their name down, they chose what they wanted to be involved in. They were then assigned a class and teacher and set out to educate and improve the enviro aspects of our school. We got the students in our class to identify problems and research solutions. We brought or got donated resources to fix the problems. Each year, 1 week is dedicated to taking action and fixing or improving our enviro areas with the help of students in our classes and parents.
Hi, I'm Aidan. I'm part of the Prongi School Bees project. So no, yeah, maybe.
It might be easier.
We just started work on that last year and had a pretty hectic year trying to get the bees in, and had all sorts of just meetings with the parents and stuff like that, just for health and safety reasons, just checking how everyone was feeling about getting bees in the school. And we had to do things like calculating if just figuring out a flight path for the bees, making sure they wouldn't go through the main field or anything like that. And yeah, so that's what we did last year. In past times, we have planted bee-friendly plants and that kind of stuff, but this is the first time we've actually had bees, and we've been working on it more this year with the M&M's meeting student classrooms. So me and my brother Liam, he's not here today, are working with room 4. So that's these cute little 5-year-olds in there. We try to teach them about bees as best we can, but sometimes you just have to read them a book about bees and get a worksheet for them. It's quite fun though anyway. And this week's Enviro Week for the school, so that's our week dedicated to just carrying out all sorts of projects with our classes. And we're planning to actually take some honey out of the beehive for the little kids to see and help us with. I think we're planning to plant some plants and all sorts of other things.
Hi, I'm Sam, and this year I am the leader of the waste, and I'm a enviro person. And this year we have been upping our game for the waste in Prongi School, and it all started back 4 years ago or something like that, where we added some. Thank you.
Make it easier.
Last year we added the no, we didn't add recycling last year. We added worms, we added the compost bin, which was a very hectic time to add it because there was so much going on. And we also, this year we added a golden bin award to encourage the students in our school to put their recycling in the recycling bin, their landfill in their landfill bin or their lunchbox to take home. And whoever has the least amount of recycling in their bin gets the Golden Bin Award. Yeah.
Our food production pair have planted more fruit trees and veggies. These fruits and veggies have been used for camps. With these fruits and veggies, we have made stewed apples to sell, pumpkin soup, and chipped potatoes. We have a tool shed next to our veggie garden with pots, spades, and water tanks, plus more. The food production pair have talked to our food tech teacher about what fruits and veggies she will use for her tech class. Future plans are to grow more food to help with food tech. We also have a sharing shed in our school where we can put extra fruits and veggies from our gardens for parents to come in and take fruits and veggies and put different fruits and veggies in.
Our school has 3 chickens. To be able to afford their house and run, we fundraise by selling reusable shopping bags to the parents of our school. We rotate the care of the chickens around all the classes of the school. They collect eggs, feed and water the hens, and fill up their grit. The first time the classes cared for the chickens, Mrs. Cullen, our principal, scrambled the eggs for the classes to eat. Parent support has been greatly appreciated in treating health problems. In the future, we plan to design a new hen house and add in purchase.
Maybe if I have it. Parongia School, no. Parongia School also has a Trees for Survival program. And with that, it's not just trees necessarily, but just native shrubs and that kind of thing. We've been doing it for quite a number of years now. Actually, you can see this photo here is me when I was 5 or 6 years old. So that's showing how long we've been doing it for. But recently we've been planting shrubs on banks of waterways and have also grown plants and then planted them on local farms, all the Browns school family. So Duncan Loney is our sponsor for this, who makes all of this happen. So it's really cool, good fun. The Possum Boys actually helped with this a couple weeks ago, shifting plants from big growth trays to bigger pots. We were just acting as some kind of supervisors. And also, yeah, talking about the Possum Boys, that's another one of our, I'm not sure why it's on the same slide actually, but that's our student group for just pest control and that kind of thing. We go up onto the mountain to help check traps and set traps. Check traps and look at ink pads and check bait trails and stuff like that. Selwyn goes with us, so he's a part of the Parongia Restoration Society. Yeah, I'm not honestly sure how much help we are during these bait trapping expeditions, but it's wicked that Selwyn puts up with us, and we all learn. Yeah, and we all learn quite a lot from our different experiences. Recently we've just done something different with the Possum Boys, and that's we've checked water. We've done some water tests up on the mountain with Selwyn, and therefore checking the biodiversity of the water. I think there's a genetic test or something, and they're going to be sent to the lab and say what's inhabiting the stream and surrounding area, which is really cool. I hope we get to do more of that in the future, or I hope the group gets to do more of that in the future. And for next year, we're planning to start setting some traps in our native. No, we're not doing that. Sorry. We're planning on distributing traps, trying to distribute traps throughout the village to help make the village more pest free. So we'll see how that goes next year.
And also at our school, we've got a native bush, which is full of native birds and native trees. And I think it was 2 years ago, we put in some bird houses and bird feeders. And with the bird feeders, we put on our food scraps that the birds can eat. And yeah.
Room 6 and I have been working on monarch butterflies. We are growing our own swan plants next to our car walker, so it's open in the sunlight and stuff. Miss Miles in room 6 are very educated on the life cycle of a butterfly. And when we had book week, Adele Geddes, author of Blaze, a butterfly-based book, visited room 6 and talked about her love of books and about butterflies. This year, my class has learned what colors butterflies like, what smells, and how warm they prefer it to be. This week, we will be weeding the boxes, planting red, blue, and purple flowers with strong scents in the boxes, and making more sturdy signs. So, these are the boxes, and we're weeding those.
We decided to get worms at our school to help us reach our Silver Enviro Award and to process excess fruit scraps. Last year, a class in our school started researching about worm farming, learning everything you need to know to take care of it. With that information, they constructed a handbook, a guide for future students to know how to care for the worms. The worms started to produce worm tea abundantly, and we had too much and it was going to go to waste. So we decided to sell the worm tea in our village. The money would help us improve the worm farm in its area. The problem that occurred was that no one brought it. We put it down to lack of advertising. In the future, we plan to try different advertising tactics. For Enviro Week, we plan to move the worms into their new bathtub worm farm.
So over the past couple of years, I think we've progressed well as an Enviro school, and we've got to the point where we are working well instead of having to do a lot of work like last year. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's been great fun because I'm a year 8 now, just seeing how the Enviro schools progressed over the years with Pirongia, and it's now getting really active, and we've got a whole lot of Enviro projects going on. It's really quite cool. Yeah, I think now all we need to do is start refining the projects we've got and start coming new innovations to for our Enviro schools. Also, so like for example, the fabric production. So they're helping manage paper waste in our school. I think for Enviro Week this week, they're gonna take some of the excess beeswax from our hive and melt it down and try and put it into the fabrics to make them more flammable and kind of bind them together a bit more. It's really cool. And the other big thing about Enviro schools is just educating the younger students and making sure they continue with these things once the older kids are gone, and keeping Pirongia School and Enviro School based on tradition and learning about different environmental projects. So yeah.
Okay, any questions? We'll put it on your score. Claire, you'll have to. Yeah.
No, I just had to say I loved your presentation. Congratulations on all the fantastic work that you're doing there. Selwyn is one of our key volunteers for the Pirongia Restoration Society, and I know that he really enjoys his time with the Possum Boys, but I will mention to him that you guys were saying that you really appreciate him putting up with you, but that I'm sure you do learn a lot from him. That's what I've heard. No, well done, and we'd love to work more closely with you, yeah, and other projects too. Thank you.
Okay, well, students, thank you very, very much for coming in to see us today. I think you can be very, very proud of the work that you've done, but also you've just been great representatives of your schools as well. So go back with your heads held high. I think you tell your principals you did a superb job. And it was just a real pleasure to hear about all the wonderful work in the environmental scene that you're actually doing. So thank you, Hora Hora School. Thank you to Parongia School. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you as well for allowing these students to share their stories. I think what it really demonstrates is the depth of knowledge that comes from it. It's not surface learning, it's part of who they are as students. And I think that's the beauty of Enviro School. So I really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you all. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Chrissy. Okay, everybody, we'll just have someone receive the report, please. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Mike. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Okay, everybody, what we'll do now is we'll just move on to our meeting schedule for 2021. Now, there is an amendment to actually make on the December meeting in 2021. It's going to now need to reflect the 14th of December, not the 7th. So the meeting's now on the 14th of December for 2021, not the 7th of December. So hopefully that doesn't disrupt anyone's schedule for in a year's time. Sure, it's fine. So if we've got a mover and a seconder, please, to confirm that schedule with that amendment. Yep, thank you, Philip. Thank you, Claire. All in favour? Carried. Okay, we're going to move into a we're going to just move into public excluded because we've got the confirmation of the public excluded minutes. So if I'm moving a seconder for that, please. Thank you, Midian.